Hi everyone and welcome back to the Clueless Mama podcast. I'm your host Maribel and sorry for the delay for the next episode. I seriously thought I was going to be able to manage live pluses, so I had a clueless moment and a reality check real quick. But it's been officially 4 weeks that I've been taking care of the triplet solos, and it's been better than what I expected it to be. I seriously doubt myself. I know a lot of people were telling me that I wasn't gonna be capable of taking care of the kids by myself, but what I tell myself every morning is I don't have no other option. So it's better to look at it with the positive side than just being so negative and then dragging. So if you hear baby's noises like right now, it's because I'm trying to multitask, and that's what we do here. This episode, I really want to talk about my breastfeeding / pumping journey. And I know it's going to be a little bit different for each mother, but I really hated doing the pumping, breastfeeding. And I did it for 4 months, and I really don't know how I lasted and how I was producing milk, because I didn't have time to eat, drink water, stay hydrated to produce more. So how it started is the babies were in the NICU for a month, and then Millie for another month. So Millie was there for 2 months, and then Jacqueline and James were there for a month. And at first, I was like, okay, this is what my babies need to grow. This is what I'm going to be doing. Honestly, the first week, Millie had 3 surgeries. I didn't have the time to sit there and pump. And then I didn't get that touch where you have the baby and then you breastfeed right away. I had the babies. I didn't see them 12 hours later. I couldn't even touch them or hold them until 6, maybe 7 days after they were born. So when I was breastfeeding, I just seriously felt like a working cow. I didn't have that touch. And then finally they were like, James is ready to be breastfed. He's able to suck, swallow, and breathe at the same time, because if they were premature, they didn't know how to do that. They were not born with that ability. And that's the difference between a newborn full-term baby and then a preemie. So we had to work on showing them how to suck, how to swallow, how to breathe, and doing all of that at the same time. So when the NICU nurse he's ready, do you want to try it? And I was like, yeah, I want to try it. I want to have that moment that everyone in the world talks about. I felt that moment, and it was magical. I didn't. I was like, yeah, no. Do I really have to do this? Because I didn't have any, and that's James talking, but I didn't have any motivation, or not motivation, it's more, I didn't have that feeling that I was expecting to have, or that I was told that you feel. And don't get me wrong, another friend had a baby almost a month after we did, and she had that experience where right away the baby latched to her, and it was a perfect embracing feeling. And I was like, yeah, I didn't felt that. So when I breastfed James, I was like, okay, yeah, no, can I continue pumping? And I was like, I'm gonna be able to do this. I'm gonna be able to breastfeed. I bought the breastfeeding pillow. Great. We came home and I was like, do I breastfeed them at the same time? Or we had to be we need to know how many ounces they're taking, because we need them to gain weight fast. And they were using the 22 cal formula as well. So we had to know exactly how many ounces they were taking. So I was like, no, so I need to pump. And it got to the point where 1 hour I was feeding Jacqueline, another hour I was feeding James, and then the third hour I was pumping. And then I was back to feed the first baby. And I was like, how am I ever going to rest? So then I eventually bought my breastfeeding pump. I originally was renting one from the hospital, so I bought it. And I was like, okay. So I got the Mom Cozy V1, and I was able to pump while I was feeding one baby. I was like, okay, I could do this. Let's continue. It got to a point where they were finishing their bottles way before I was finishing pumping. So I wasn't able to hold them and burp them until I was able to finish pumping. And then that just came okay, one more thing I have to wait, one more thing that I have to drag when I just want to finish feeding the baby and go back to sleep. And I was like, okay. It got to the point where I'm like, fuck this. I'm not gonna pump at night, I will suffer the sucker. I will suffer in the morning. Like it'll be okay. So I started doing that, and then towards when Millie got home, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And prior to that, when Millie was at the hospital, I was giving my breast milk just to her because she was so underweight. She's still underweight, but I was focusing on her. So we were driving every day to Reno. I was going to say Fresno. Driving to Reno every day and just trying to give her all my breast milk. And then she got acid reflux. So they said no more breast milk because it was very thin. So I was like, okay, so breast milk just for Jacqueline and James. Around December, January, I was suffering. Like, when I'll be pumping during the day, they will start crying, fuzzing. I'm like, I can't carry them. I have to let them cry. And I was like, when I'm going solo, taking care of the triplets, there's no way I'm going to be able to breastfeed and take care of them. There's no way. Or they're going to be crying for 20 minutes. Like, no. So what I did is I lost it until my mom left. So I'm like, when I know my mom left to California, I was like, this is the time I need to start cutting my supplies. And it got to the point where my supplies was getting less, but Jane was taking 6 ounces. Jacqueline was taking 5. If I wanted to continue this breastfeeding journey, I had to pump 11 ounces per pump session. And I was like, yeah, no, can't happen. And when they did their 4th month vaccine, I asked our pediatrician, like, do I have to continue breastfeeding? And she laughed. She's like, no, honey, taking care of 3 kids is very stressful. You don't need to add one more thing to your list. And that's when I said, fuck this, I'm over. So when I was in California for those 2 weeks, I'm like, this is a time where I need to cut off the supply. I have the help. I can focus on the supply. And I was very scared that I was going to get dead clogs or I was going to get fever, infection. Because I have heard those stories like my nipple was going to explode. So I was buying all of these products like to prevent all of that, which never happened because I was just exclusively pumping. So that really never happened. And then I just don't know how you guys, there's mothers that do the 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. I'm like, I felt like a cow right away. And I feel it was just my experience of it. If we do have another baby, I don't know if I will do breast milk. I think I'm just going to go straight to a formula. And I feel like that's such a judgment for me to say that. And I feel like I'm going to get judged or just look different because I'm saying that I don't want to breastfeed in the future if we do have more kids. It's more of, I know what my body is capable of doing, don't get me wrong. I realize, like, yes, a woman's body is to be able to produce for their babies, but we're in 2024. If I don't have to, why should I? And I feel like that's where my husband and I had a disagreement where he's like, you can't stop pumping. You need to provide for our kids. And I was like, excuse me? Like, no. Like, I'm going to stop until he realized that I couldn't handle pumping and taking care of the triplets. And if you're a mom with multiples, props for you if you're still breastfeeding and you're able to produce that much. The max I was able to produce was 6 ounces. So at that point, I was only able to do 3 and 3. So we still had to use formula. And I'm like, I feel like if I was able to produce 11 ounces per feeding, I would have continued. Because I'm like, yes, I'm being not helpful. I'm able to produce what it's needed for my babies. And I'm at this point, I'm like, there's time where I was only produced 4 in total. And I'm like, that's not even enough. James sucks that in with no chance. So that's what my breastfeeding experience was. I would love to know what was your breastfeeding experience. Because I know everyone's different. But this is mine. This is my honest. I honestly hated it. And the day that I stopped, kid you not, I have a video of me opening a White Claw. And I'm like, first drink. Best day ever. I'm officially done breastfeeding. And it hasn't changed our babies. It hasn't affected them in nowhere. They haven't gotten sick. They're very healthy. Millie's still underweight, but that's because of her stomach issues. But other than that, James is 16 pounds. Jacqueline is almost 14 pounds. They're at the weight they should be, especially for a premature 32 weeks baby. So, yeah, that's what my experience was. And it's weird to say it because it really was. I can't believe I did it for 4 months. But I don't think I will do it again in the future. So let's see. Disclaimer, I doubt we're ever going to have more kids. But you never know. So thank you for watching this short episode. But this is what I was going to try to do. Just do 15 to 20 minutes episodes once a week. And then go from there. Bye, Clueless Mamas.